Kuchengetedza mari, kuchengeta mhuri yako.
It's your money, let's talk about it.
Kuchengetedza naka, kuchengeta upenyu wako.
It's your money, let's talk about it.
Kuchengetedza mari, kuchengetedza mhuri yako.
It's your money, let's talk about it.
Protect your family and secure your future.
Let's talk about it.
Protect your family and your estate.
The LOA Insurance Forum.
I'm sure it's almost a no-brainer for you. Insurance. That word, do we understand it? Do we really need it? Welcome to the Life Officers Association of Zimbabwe's Great Insurance Forum, a fascinating weekly program filled with enlightening expert analysis. Now, what do Zimbabwe and Germany have in common apart from a love for powerful cars and football? Stay tuned and find out in episode 12 of the Great Insurance Forum, live from Star FM, starring LOA's own Secretary General, Mr. Mavken Rufai. Good evening, Mr. Mavken.
Good evening, Shingi, and hello, audience.
Mr. Rufai, I believe today we'll be turning back time and heading to post-World War I Germany.
That's right. We are going back in history to see how Germany was affected by hyperinflation and how it recovered.
I didn't realize one of contemporary Europe's strongest economy was also hit by hyperinflation. Please tell us more.
In actual fact, hyperinflation has bedeviled many countries throughout history, not just Zimbabwe. And you are right about Germany's emerging from the ashes of hyperinflation to become a world economic powerhouse. But let's start at the beginning in Imperial Germany in the early 1900s. Prior to hyperinflation, Germany, under the rule of Emperor Wilhelm II, boasted a booming economy. As one of the central powers, it was a leading industrial powerhouse in Western Europe, until its imperialist policies of expansion led to conflict with neighboring superpowers and the outbreak of World War I. It then triggered by the assassination of the Austria's Archduke Ferdinand in 1914.
I remember learning about that in history, so I'm guessing the war must have triggered Germany's hyperinflation.
Yes, it did. In order to pay the large costs incurred in the financing in its participation in World War I, Germany suspended the convertibility of its currency into gold. Its government decided to finance the war by borrowing, which led to the decline of the German currency to around half its value. Now, following its defeat by the Allied forces in 1918, the Weimar Republic was established in 1919 to replace the Imperial German government. Various treaties were signed between Germany and the Allied powers, including the Treaty of Versailles, which stripped Germany of 13.3% of its European territories.
I've often found it interesting that there are German-speaking territories in Italy and Austria where the people drink beer and eat German sausage.
Yes, the Treaty of Versailles was responsible for changing the national boundaries of many countries. It all comes back to Article 231, also known as the War Guilt Clause, which declared Germany and her allies responsible for causing all loss and damage suffered by the Allied countries during the war. One of the new Weimar Germany's first task was to pay substantial reparations to France and other affected countries.
Yes.
But because there was insufficient gold and currency had become worthless through repeated purchase of foreign currency, the Weimar government was forced to make payments in goods.
Not the most auspicious circumstances for any new government to deal with.
Not at all, and inflation predictably soon started spiraling out of control. Economic activity declined due to the strikes, and the government resorted to printing money to pay workers. The printing of money without any corresponding increase in economic activity exacerbated inflation, leading to hyperinflation, a situation where there was too much money chasing after too few goods. It also led to a rapidly declining exchange rate of the German mark against other major currencies and a significantly rising cost of imports.
Now, how long did this last?
The hyperinflation period lasted from the middle of 1921 to the beginning of 1924. At its peak towards the end of 1923, the hyperinflation rate in Germany reached 29,500 per month. At this rate, the price of goods such as a loaf of bread worth $1 would have risen to about $672 trillion within half a year.
$672 trillion for a loaf of bread. It's almost too fantastic to comprehend.
It might sound fantastic, Shingi, but it is also very true. It was also said that in the time it took to drink a cup of coffee, the price of a cup would double.
Oh.
Now, unfortunately, this rate was not sustained as the currency was converted within a year. But hyperinflation had always severely eroded the value of money. By late 1923, the highest value banknote issued had a value of 100 trillion marks, while $1 was worth 4 trillion German marks.
That sounds familiar. I remember our banknotes having astronomical denominations back in the hyperinflation days.
Exactly. As it happened in Zimbabwe, hyperinflation in Germany also led to closure of companies. This had a knock-on effect on the financial sector, which typically generates income through providing services to companies as well as holding investments in companies.
And jobs were the next thing to go?
Yes, Shingi. Unemployment was also on the rise in this post-World War I Germany. This widened the gap between the rich and the poor and transferred wealth from the lenders to the borrowers. The middle class of the economy virtually ceased to exist. Overall, there was a real loss of value to the economy. Employees and pensioners were the most severely affected, especially those on fixed income. They had to be paid regularly with rising wages and pensions respectively, some as regularly as weekly, to keep up with the rising prices. But even then, prices continued to accelerate before the money could be spent.
I recall Zimbabwe pensioners were also badly affected by hyperinflation.
That's correct. In Germany, the value of wages and pensions soon became worthless. This resulted in people becoming depressed to the extent that it triggered a mental disorder called zero stroke, in which the afflicted were driven by a desire to write endless rows of zeros and to carry out calculations more complex than the most difficult logarithm problems.
What? You mean people would just write long numbers without being able to stop?
Yes, it's a famous case that's worth looking up if you are interested in learning more. But back to the story, where we see Germany back on the road to recovery when in 1924, inflation was finally brought under control. This was achieved through the introduction of a new currency that could be converted into a bond with gold value and a solid commitment to monetary and fiscal policy discipline by the German government. After trimming 12 zeros off prices, the new currency remained stable.
And the rest is history. Germany is once again a leading world power.
It is enjoying an impressive economic renaissance, yes. Now it's worth remembering that although the German economy stabilized, it continued to be depressed for some years because the country's capital had been depleted through hyperinflation. As you rightly mentioned, Shingi, the German economy eventually recovered from this era to become one of the strongest economies in the world today, which goes to show that it is possible for nations that have suffered hyperinflation, such as Zimbabwe, to bounce back even stronger than before.
Well, that's what I like to hear. Zimbabwe is on the comeback trail, so watch out, world. Well, that was another fascinating forum here on the Sensational Star FM. Thank you for listening, and remember, the LOA wants to hear what you have to say, so WhatsApp or SMS your questions to 0777 879 727. Now, making sure you include your name and where you come from. The questions will be answered in the next program, and don't forget, more informative insurance articles from the LOA appear in the Herald and the Financial Gazette every Thursday. Plus, you can follow the LOA on Facebook at LOA Zim. That's one word, LOA Zim. And that's it for this week. Join us again, same time, same place, next Thursday as we look at how hyperinflation affected Hungary and the impact it had on the Hungarian economy. Thank you for participating in the Great Insurance Forum, where everybody's opinion counts. For more information on the LOA, please telephone +263 42933 655 up to 6. The Life Officers Association of Zimbabwe, establishing trust through dialogue.
Kuchengetedza mari, kuchengeta mhuri yako.
It's your money, let's talk about it.
Kuchengetedza naka, kuchengeta upenyu wako.
It's your money, let's talk about it.
Kuchengetedza mari